What is up, everybody? My name is Logan Strong. Welcome to CTF Strong Talks Football. Today, I'm going to be predicting the playoff seeding, plus playoff games, and plus the Super Bowl at the end. I did a poll last Thursday of a couple video ideas, and this one was one of them, but we ended up doing the NFL Midseason Awards instead, but I still wanted to do this video because it would be a lot of fun, so that's what we are doing today. So before we get started, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, turn on notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos whenever I post. With all that out of the way, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to go over is the playoff seeding predictions I made. On the left, I got AFC, and on the right, I got NFC, so it's a little bit more neat, and it's easier to look at. So first, let's go over the AFC division winners I've got here. The number one seed, I think, is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs once again. It's been a very close race between them and the Bills, and then the Ravens are catching up, but I think the Chiefs will reign superior, and they will lead the AFC at number one. At the second seed, I've got the Buffalo Bills taking it. I think they're a very good team. They've been a surprising team because I thought they were going to be like around a wild card team during the preseason, and then as soon as they started playing, they're just showing that they are not out of it yet, even with all the talent they lost, especially on defense, and they will reign supreme, and I think they will make it far in the playoffs. We'll go over that later. But, yeah, I think the Bills are going to get a second seed here. At the third seed, I've got the Baltimore Ravens taking it. I think it's going to be a very close race between them and the Steelers for the division, but I do think the Ravens are a little bit better of a team. It's going to be really close, but I think the Ravens will take the division and the number 3 seed. And then at the fourth seed, I've got the Houston Texans just because no other team wants to win it, and they're the best team in that division. Either way, like, they have a lot of talent on their roster. They have not been impressive this year. CJ Stroud is having a horrible sophomore year. The offense is pretty on and off some of the time, and the defense is great. Like, they show sparks of having a great defense, but their secondary sometimes can allow a lot of yards. So there's a lot of questions to be asked about this team. And I do think they are a playoff team, obviously, just because they're going to win their division. And I do think they're good enough to make the playoffs. But the way they've been playing so far this season, they are not good enough to win a playoff game yet, in my opinion. And then this is where it starts getting interesting. Now we got the 5th seed, the first wild card seed of this bracket here. At the 5th seed, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Simply put, they are better than the other two teams that will be below it. And also, I think they barely take second place in the AFC North. But they are a great team this year. Their defense is phenomenal. Their special teams are phenomenal. And their offense has been impressive this year, with Russell Wilson being a pretty good quarterback this year. The run game's pretty good with Najee Harris and Jalen Warden. And then the passing game is led by George Pickens and nobody else. So, yeah, this team's going to be very interesting in the playoffs, and I got them at number 5th seed. At the 6th seed, I feel like this one's going to backfire because for some weird reason, I feel like this team's going to blow it at the end, but I'm going to keep my word on this one. I think it's going to be the LA Chargers. Why I'm saying I feel like I'm going to regret this decision is because this team always finds a way to choke it at the end. Like, that's just their nature. Like, they always do it. But at the same time, like, this is a whole new team with Jim Harbaugh as their coach. He has been the sole reason of why this team has been so successful because at the start of the year, like preseason, I thought this team was going to be a bottom 5 team because they had no offense at all. They literally had nothing on offense. And then their defense on paper was good, but even though it was mostly coaching last year, we saw how bad their defense was. Like, we thought this team was going to be a mess. And then Jim Harbaugh comes in, he leads the way, and he's been taking this team through a lot of success this season. Justin Herbert's been great as usual. J.K. Dobbins has been great, finally healthy. Fingers crossed on that. Hopefully that doesn't jinx me. The receiving group's been pretty underrated this year with rookie Ladd McConkey taking the role as the number 1 receiver. And then even Quentin Johnston's finally find his way in the NFL. Like, it's been good to see. And then finally, with a good coach leading them, their defense has been up to potential. Like, their defense has been amazing this year. So, yeah, this is a little bit of a dark horse playoff team to me. But at the same time, like, this could be, like, the number 1 team that could choke a game. Like, you never know what to expect with this team. But I do have them at the 6th seed. And then finally, at the 7th seed, I think this team will finally make the playoffs. I've got the Denver Broncos getting the 7th seed here. Have you watched this team play the last couple weeks? They have been pretty damn good, man. Like, their offense has been good. Bo Nix has finally played up to his potential. He's looking great. Even though their run game's not that great, like, look at their pass game. Like, Cortland Sutton's finally having a good year after Bo Nix has been finally playing well. Like, their defense is also phenomenal. Like, they have a damn good team. And even though I don't like the guy, Sean Payton's been a good coach for them. Like, it's good to see this team finally do good things. But the one thing I hope for this team, like its success, is the fans do not get too cocky, because I will bring up your QB history, even with Bo Nix playing well, and you will not like it. Okay, jokes aside, 7th seed for the Broncos. All right, so now we are on the NFC side of things. So the first seed we've got is probably no shock to anybody. I've got the Detroit Lions. Like, who else is it going to be? Like, if you look at the standings right now, like, there's nobody even close to the Lions right now other than the Eagles, which, now that I mentioned, they are the number 2 seed, in my opinion, so I'll go over that later, but let's go over the Lions first. They have had, historically, probably the best team they've ever had. Like, hopefully that matches well in the playoffs, but historically, this is the best team I think they've ever had. Like, Jared Goff's having an MVP-type year. Their running back room is one of the best of all time, in my opinion. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs have been unstoppable. Amon-Ra St. Brown's been a top 5 receiver. Jameson Williams also really good. And then even though Sam Laporta is not having a good year, you still got to give him his props for being a great tight end. And then I don't know why most people don't mention this, but their offensive line is probably the best in football, and it's been their biggest reason of why their run game has been so good this year. And then usually their defense isn't great, but this year it's been different. This year their defense has been great this year. Like, I'm thinking they're like top 10 right now, I think. Like, they've been really good. So yeah, this team is number 1 seed, and I hope they do great things in the playoffs. So now that we got the Lions out of the way, let's talk about the Eagles right here at 2 seed. Despite me not liking this team too much, I will give the Eagles their props. Like, they have been good this year compared to last year, unless they somehow destruct like they did last year. Like, they still have a great team. Jalen Hurts has been a pretty good quarterback. He hasn't been perfect, but he's been good. Saquon Barkley's been phenomenal, especially after last night. No, I'm not going to spoil it, but he was phenomenal. Their receiving room's still great. They still got A.J. Brown. They still got Devontae Smith, who I think has been even better than he ever has been before. They have Dallas Goedert when he's healthy. And then they still have a great O-line. Even without Jason Kelce, they still have a top O-line in the league. But their defense is so weird to me. Some weeks they'll come out and prove that they're a top 10 defense in the NFL. And then some weeks they just forget how to play football. And, like, I don't get it. Like, their defense is so weird. So when it comes to the playoffs, it really depends on what defense shows up in the playoffs. But if their good defense shows up, they are going to make it far. But they are also a team that has a bunch of flaws that are shown. Like, their coaching, for example. If it wasn't for all the talent this team has, like, this team would not do anything. They'd probably be under the Commanders, like, probably not under the Cowboys. But, like, they would be the 3rd seed. Like, they have not been that good. Like, their coaching has not been great. I think Nick Sirianni's an idiot, and I think their coordinators aren't that great. But at the same time, it's been mostly their talent that's been able to get them over those humps. So, but if the Eagles do not make it far in the playoffs and they lose to, like, the wild card, then Nick Sirianni is going to get fired, which will be great to see. So other than those flaws, I think the Eagles are a great team, and they are 2nd seed. All right, at 3rd seed, the NFC is kind of weird. Like, the wild card is pretty talented, but these next two are, depending on who wins the division. This one was a very tough call. Number 3rd seed, I've got the LA Rams taking the NFC West. Any Seahawk or Cardinal, even Niner fans attacking me right now, like, I understand the Cardinals and the Seahawks are great teams like this year. Like, they have been pretty good. I don't want to hear from the Niner fans. That team is cooked right now. But I just think the Rams just have a better roster. I think they're just a little bit better coached. And I do think they will pull it off at the end, and I do think they will win the division. Like, you got to look at the Rams, man. Like, their offense is phenomenal. I think Stafford still has it a little bit. Kyren Williams is a top 10 running back in the NFL. When healthy, Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, one of the best receiving duos in the NFL. Their offensive line is pretty underrated, in my opinion. And even though the Rams defense isn't great, they're good enough to play any team in the NFL. But the main reason why I think this team will make it to the playoffs is because of Sean McVay. Like, he's been an insanely good coach, and nobody's really talked about him. So, yeah, this was a very tough call to make. Like, I really wanted to pick either the Seahawks or Cardinals to make the playoffs, but I just think the Rams are a little bit better of a team despite their record right now. But at the end of the year, I think the Rams will end up having a better record. I think the Rams do make the playoffs, and they are the 3rd seed. And then at 4th seed, you already know it's from the NFC South. Like, you already know how that division is, and I think it's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. And they have not been that impressive either. Like, they have looked pretty sluggish for being that top team in that division. Like, they don't look impressive at all, but they're still good enough to win that division because the Bucs are way too injured, and the Saints and the Panthers suck right now. But if you, like, just look at this team, and you would be lying if you said this team did not have talent. Like, Kirk Cousins, even though he's not having his best year, he's still a good quarterback. You've got Bijan Robinson, who's an amazing running back. But one thing I do admire from this team from this season is their receiving room. It's insanely underrated. Like, you got Drake London, who's obviously been great. Like, I've never been the biggest fan of him, but this year especially has been proving to me why he's such a great receiver just watching him. And then you finally have Darnell Mooney finally going back to his old 2019 form. Like, he's been great this year, and nobody's talking about it either. Like, he's been a really good receiver this year. And if you want to add more depth, you also got Ray McCloud, who's also been pretty serviceable as a receiver this year. Like, their receiving room is underrated. And then they still have Kyle Pitts, who is obviously a freak of nature. He's insanely talented. But even though he's finally had a spark on this team, I still feel like he should find a new team next season. That's just me, but he can do him. That sounded so weird. I mean, like, he can make his own situation. He can make his own decision on that one. Their defense is pretty bad. It's insane to see, too, because if you look at that defensive roster, like, you got Matt Judon, you've got Justin Simmons, Jesse Bates, probably the best safety duo in the league, and you have a great corner as well. Like, I don't get how this defense can struggle this much with that kind of roster on defense. Like, it's probably a defensive coordinator problem, but I just don't understand it. So, yeah, this team is extremely flawed, but they will make the playoffs finally, and they are going to be the 4th seed. All right, so this is where it starts to get interesting. We got the 5th seed, and this is going to be a really close call, but I'm going to give it to the Minnesota Vikings. I feel like out of any team other than the Commanders, this has been one of the most shocking teams this season. Like, nobody thought this team was going to be good this year. Especially hearing that Sam Darnold was going to be the quarterback. Everyone thought that this team was not going to do anything this season. But lo and behold, their coach, Kevin O'Connell, is a quarterback whisperer, apparently, because he just turned Sam Darnold to a bottom 5 quarterback to a top 15 quarterback in the league, like, out of freaking nowhere. Like, Sam Darnold's been great this year. Then you got Aaron Jones, who's always been an underrated running back. He's always been great. And you still have great receivers. Like, you got Justin Jefferson, who's the best receiver in the league, in my opinion. You've got Jordan Addison, who's also great. You've got TJ Hawkinson, one of the best tight ends in the league when healthy. And then when you look at their defense, man, it's phenomenal. Brian Flores is such a great defensive coordinator, and he helped make that defense into a stout defense. Like, that defense is great. So, yeah, this is definitely a dark horse playoff team, in my opinion, and I think they will make a threat. I think the Vikings will make the 5th seed. All right, so next we've got the 6th seed, and I said this would be close between the Vikings and the other team right here, and I think the Vikings will just be a tiny bit better, but the 6th seed is going to be the Green Bay Packers. They are definitely an inconsistent team. Like, there's no doubt about it, but they still have found ways to win. And I think they will continue to do that. Like, they definitely have a lot of talent. There's no debate on that. Even though Jordan Love's not having his greatest year ever, he's still a great quarterback. You've got Josh Jacobs, who has been great on the Packers. You have an underrated receiving room, even though I have Jaden Reed in fantasy, and he's been pretty bad lately. It's been pissing me off. But he's still a great receiver. You've got Christian Watson, who's still good. You've got Romeo Doubs, who's been good. And then you got Tucker Kraft, who's an underrated tight end. And then when you look at their defense, like it reminds me of the Falcons defense a little bit, just nowhere near as bad. Like this defense has a ton of talent, like they are a really good defense, but there are some weeks that the Packers defense forget how to play football. It's weird. But it's not as significant as the Falcons defense. Like they haven't gotten embarrassed like the Falcons defense yet. But yeah, this team is extremely talented, and they are going to be the 6th seed of the playoffs. And then finally, the 7th seed of the NFC, I'm going to give it to the Washington Commanders. Even though they're starting to kind of fall out for me, like they've shown a lot of flaws lately, and I do think the Cardinals and the Seahawks can potentially take the 7th seed here. I still think the Commanders are just a tiny bit better of a team, and here's why. Like, if you still look at that team, they still have a great rookie quarterback. They still have a solid run game when healthy. They still have good receivers. And they still have a pretty decent defense. It's not great, but it's okay. But they have shown a lot of flaws the last few weeks. Like, their offense is pretty inconsistent when it comes to playing consistently. Like, we've already seen before, their red zone offense is not that great. Their defense, we've already talked about, is not great. And then, even though Dan Quinn's been a shockingly good coach this year, he still shows his old flaws from when he got fired before. So I really hope this team gets that stuff straightened out, because I would love to see if this team can do anything in the playoffs. But if they keep going down the path they have been playing the last few weeks, like the Seahawks or Cardinals will take that seed from them, and it's going to be named as one of the worst disappointments of this season when it comes to seeding. So yeah, I still think the Commanders are a good team, and I do still think they're going to make the playoffs at 7th seed. All right, so now I just went over all the playoff seedings. I'm going to go over all the playoff games that I think is going to happen according to my seeding predictions right here. So first, we're going to go over AFC wildcard matchups. We got the 7th seed versus the 2 seed, Denver Broncos versus the Buffalo Bills. I'm not going to give any scores here. I'm just going to go over who I think is going to win the game and why. So I think the Bills will take the win here, just because I think the Bills are just a better team than the Broncos. I think the Broncos will put up a decent fight, but I just think the Bills are just a better team. And they're just going to, and plus that's at Buffalo. Like, I just think the Bills are just a better team in general. So yeah, I got the Bills winning this game. Next matchup we've got is the 6th seed versus the 3rd seed, the Chargers versus the Ravens. This is actually funny because according to when I'm filming today, these 2 teams actually play each other tonight, so that'll actually give off like a good example of like how these teams will face off against each other. But I'm going to go the same as what I predicted in my predictions video for week 12. As I will with this, I'm going to take the Ravens to win this playoff game if they do face off. Same as the Bills and Broncos. I think the Chargers will put up a decent fight, but I do think the Ravens are just a better team. Like, I feel like I kind of lowballed them, like saying why they'd be the 3rd seed, not talking about their team. Like, they have a phenomenal run game with Derrick Henry being the best running back in the league. They have a solid receiving room. They have a great tight end duo with Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. Lamar has been a top 2 quarterback in the league this year, and their defense is not great at all. Like, their defense is pretty damn bad, but I think the offense is good enough to put up a lot of points to help them win, and I think that's going to be the case with this game. So yeah, this would be a great playoff game to watch if it actually happens. But I do think the Ravens are a better team and they will win this game. The next AFC wildcard matchup is the 5th seed versus the 4th seed, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Houston Texans. And I think out of the AFC, this will be the only away team win I think will happen. I think the Steelers do beat the Texans here. For one, I just think the Steelers are a better team right now. And then 2, I think the Texans are just too inconsistent on offense to keep up with the Steelers or any top team in this playoff bracket. Like, they have looked pretty sluggish. And the only way for this team to learn anything is a one and done in the playoffs, just so they know like where they're at and what they need to work on for next season. And facing the Steelers, I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Steelers are a better team and they will win this game. All right, so now we are on the NFC wildcard matchups. We've got the Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles, 7th seed versus 2 seed. You've got to love divisional matchups in the playoffs. Like, there's so much suspense with these games, and they feel awesome to watch, no matter if it's going to be a good game or not. Like, there's always a lot of suspense. And I do think this will be a really close game, but I do think the Eagles will win this one just because I think they're just a better team. They proved it at Philadelphia earlier in the season, and according to this, this game would be played in Philadelphia, and I do think the Eagles will get the upper hand. No shame on the Commanders. They've had a great season, but I just think the Eagles are just a better team in this scenario, so I think the Eagles would win this one. Next game, we got the 6th seed versus the 3rd seed, the Packers versus the Rams, and this is a weird game to me. I feel like if this happened in real life, like in the playoffs, I feel like this would be an insanely sloppy game, but I just think the Packers are a little bit better of a team to win this game. I think the Rams have a better offense, but I think the Rams have a way worse defense than the Packers do. And I just think the Packers can do enough on offense to win this game at the end. And plus, this is still so weird to me, even though this team has played at this stadium for 4 years now. I don't get how, depending on how bad the team is or how good the team is with the Rams, even when they made the Super Bowl a couple years ago, how is it that the away team has way more fans than their home team? It's so weird to me. I just don't understand. I think the Packers will have a little bit of a home advantage here, even though it's at the Rams Stadium. So, I think the Packers will win this game, but it will be a great game to watch. And finally, the last wild card game I've got here, it's the 5th seed versus the 4th seed, the Minnesota Vikings at the Atlanta Falcons. If there's any game that I think would be a blowout out of any of these playoff games, I feel like it'd be this one. I feel like the Vikings could kick their ass. I just think the Vikings are a far better team than the Falcons this year, and even though it would be at Atlanta, I just think the Vikings just outmatch the Falcons 10-1 at this point. I think the Vikings have a way better offense, and I think their defense is way better, not even close. So yeah, these two teams faced off. I think the Vikings would take this one easily. Alright, so now we're moving on to the divisional matchups according to my bracket predictions. We've got the Steelers, the 5th seed, versus the Chiefs, the 1st seed. And I think this would be a great game to watch. I know these two play each other on Christmas, so that would be a great way to see how these two teams match up with each other. But according to playoff status, with how these teams have looked, I think the Chiefs will win this one. Just because the Chiefs just never lose in the divisional rounds. They always make it to the AFC Championship every single year, and they will keep up on that. And I just think they are a better team than the Steelers. Even though the Steelers have the number 1 defense in the NFL, I think the Chiefs' defense have a close second best defense or 3. It's between them and the Vikings for me with defense. And if we look at this offense here, if the Chiefs' offense, depending on if they're fully healthy, I don't think Rashee Rice is coming back this season. But Isaiah Pacheco, this offense would destroy the Steelers, in my opinion. It could still be a close game, but I think the Chiefs' offense is too good to not beat the Steelers here. So yeah, it's going to be a great game, but I got the Chiefs sadly taking this one. So the other AFC divisional matchup I've got is a very good one. The Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. The 3rd seed versus the 2nd seed. I think it's going to be an extremely close, entertaining game, but I've got the Bills taking this one barely to the Ravens here. And even though the Ravens' offense is phenomenal, same with the Bills, I just think the Ravens' defense is too much of a flaw here, and I just think that's going to be the main reason why this team loses to the Bills. It's going to be an extremely close game, an extremely entertaining game, but I just think the Bills overall just have a better team, especially on defense. That's the biggest reason why I think the Ravens would lose this one, is because of their defense. It's not good. So I think the Bills win this game. Great game, but I think the Bills finally make it to the AFC Championship for the first time since 2020. So now we're on the NFC side of divisional matchups. We've got the 6th seed Green Bay Packers versus the number 1 seed Detroit Lions. I think this would be a great game for the playoffs, but I do think the Lions are a better team, so I'm going to take the Lions on this one. I just think the Lions' run game is just too powerful. Their whole offense is just too powerful to lose to the Packers here. I think the Packers still have a great offense. They'll make this game close, but I just think the Lions just have a better team in general, and they have a better coach in my opinion. That might be a little bit controversial, but take that to the grave to me. I think Dan Campbell is a better coach. So yeah, this is going to be a great game, but I think the Lions would win this one. And then finally, the last game of the divisional rounds, we've got the 5th seed Minnesota Vikings taking on the 2nd seed Philadelphia Eagles. This is a matchup from 2017 NFC Championship. My bad, I meant NFC. This is a rematch from the NFC Championship back in 2017. and I think it will be similar to that, but also similar to that, I think the Eagles would win this game. I think this would be a really close game, like probably the closest game out of any of these games so far. But I think the Eagles just have a tad bit better of a team. I think Saquon's just that great of a running back, even with how good the Vikings defense is. I just still think Saquon will be a big factor in this game. So yeah, this is going to be a phenomenal game, but I've got the Eagles winning this one in real life. And now we've got the conference championships. First, we've got the AFC Championship. We've got the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. I hate to say it, man. I want the Bills to win this game so bad to finally break the streak. But sadly, I've got the Chiefs winning this game and going to the Super Bowl for the third time in a row. It's just the Chiefs in the playoffs, man. It's just so hard to beat them, no matter how good the team is that they're facing. Even the Bills this year. I think this is the best Bills team they've had in the last 2 years, but I just think the Chiefs are just a far better team, a far better coach team, man. It sucks, but I just think the Chiefs are a better team. And it's going to be the same thing as it has been the last couple games these two have faced. It's going to be an extremely close game. It's going to look like the Bills are going to win at the end, and then the Chiefs pull it off at the end. It's just the same thing. It gets annoying, but I just can't bet against the Chiefs, man. It sucks, but I sadly have the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. And then we've got the NFC Championship. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Detroit Lions, and this would be a close game, but I've got the Detroit Lions finally making the Super Bowl for the first time. Isn't that crazy? Out of all the years the Lions have been in the NFL, they have never not even won a Super Bowl, that they've never been to a Super Bowl. That's so crazy to me. They've never been. So I think after this game, I think the Lions will finally make their trip to the Super Bowl. And it's going to be such a great feeling for not only Lions fans, but NFL fans. Because this team is so likable, and they've been so bad for so long. And then now that they finally have a great team, it's going to be great to see them make it this far. But again, no disrespect to the Eagles, even though I don't really like them. I think they are a great team. But I do think the Lions are a better team. And again, like I was saying earlier, I think this is the best the Lions have ever been before. So I think the Lions will win and go to the Super Bowl. And then finally, we've got Super Bowl 59 at New Orleans. This is, according to my bracket, this would be my Super Bowl prediction here. We've got the Chiefs at the Lions. This would be a back and forth, crazy game. I think the Chiefs would take the game here at halftime. And then the second half rolls in. And then the Lions start making an impact. And then the Chiefs start making an impact. It's going to be back and forth, back and forth. But hold me to this. At the end of the game, I think the Detroit Lions will finally have their first title in their franchise history. I just think the Lions are just too skilled of a team to lose. I just think, even to the Chiefs, I just think this team is just too good to lose. This team is too good. Their defense is great. Their offense is phenomenal. Dan Campbell deserves a Super Bowl ring, and I think they finally get it here. And I think out of any team in the NFL, that this Super Bowl win would feel the most rewarding, beating the Chiefs. I feel like it'd be more rewarding beating the Chiefs than it would beating the Bills or Ravens. That's just me. And I feel like if this Super Bowl actually happened, other than the fans, nobody would root for the Chiefs. Everyone would vote for the Lions. Nobody wants to see the Chiefs three-peat. Nobody wants that. So, yeah, it would be a battle between the first three-peat ever versus their first a team that has never been to a Super Bowl and trying to get their first title ever. And I think fans would lean on to the other side. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Lions take this one, and I think they are Super Bowl 59 world champs. And there you guys have it. That was my playoff bracket predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and any Cardinals, Seahawks, even Niner fans out there, don't get too upset by this video. Any of these predictions can change throughout time. This is just my mid-season prediction, so don't take it to heart. So before I go, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, turn on notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos whenever I post. We're all out of the way. I'm Logan Sharon. I'll see you next time.